Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to let us present to you. We will be presenting on our mutual fund analysis that we did for Vanguard mutual funds. Who is we? We are just two guys. I am David Fitzsimmons. My partner is Blaine Morgan. We are the ones that performed the analysis on your data set. Today we're going to go over all the steps that we went through to get our best model, how we got there, issues in the way, any interesting insights that we were able to garner from either the regression analysis or the tableau, and then some recommendations that we're going to make to you at the end. So initially the data was provided by you, Vanguard, to us. We did have to clean the data a little bit to make it a little bit more usable for us. For instance, we created dummy variables for fund size, fund type, because we thought these might be influential on how a fund yield would perform. We also removed rows with incomplete data sets in order to create the cleanest data set for ourselves to work with possible. And then we also used XLOOKUP to merge our Excel sheets together so that we can run our regression without any error. We did encounter some challenges with our regression testing. For instance, our first regression analysis showed us that there was a lot of heteroscedasticity occurring within our model. For example, I have an image of a residual plot that we got for inception year. And you can definitely see that it is suffering from heteroscedasticity. You can see that funnel. You can see that funnel there. We also found that heteroscedasticity afflicted price to book ratio, asset cash, and inception year. In order to remedy that, we decided to log the variables, and that yielded very good results for us. We also did encounter multi-collinearity, and in order to cure that, we opted to omit certain variables. We opted to omit variables that we thought were not very important for fund yield. For example, short-term 3 to 5 month return ratios. We decided to get rid of those simply because we're looking for long-term fund yields. We don't care about the day-to-day. This model is pretty big. Don't worry about it. You don't have to read it all. But our best model was 35.49% of the way toward perfectly predicting a fund yield. Our model had a standard error of 1.37%, or 1.37, meaning that our model on average was going to be off by 1.37%. We know that this model was the best model we were able to produce because it had the highest R squared and the lowest standard error, even when compared to models that we had created where we logged the dependent variable. And when we calculated an adjusted R squared, this model still came out on top. We did find some significant variables. We found that fund size, fund type, and fund age seem to be the predominant factors influencing a fund's yield. We did think it was interesting that the ratio in which a fund might hold stocks, bonds, or whatever other assets had little to no effect actually, but really the size and the age and the type of fund had a lot to do with it. For instance, medium-sized funds generally outperform smaller and larger funds by 0.73 percentage points. Value-oriented funds are going to be outperforming growth and blended funds by 1.17 percentage point to 0.3 percentage points. And we also found that fund age is fairly important as well. As the fund gets older, their yields are going to increase by 0.77 percentage points. At this point, now I'm going to hand it over to Blaine to let him explain some of the tableau.
Hello everyone, my name is Blaine Morgan and I am also with Shift4 Finance, and I wanted to go over some of the Tableau visuals to give some insight into the data. And starting off, I wanted to go over this visualization of the top 10 fund yields. This one's important to know because these two top funds threw off a lot of the visualizations, so we had to take them out or take out the outliers to clean up the visualizations a little bit, and then it helped us make sense of the data a little bit more. This second visual is breaking down the investment type by the size of the fund. This one gives some insight into that, like the blend investment type. Medium funds are actually the best as far as fund yield, and then for growth and value, that the small funds actually outperformed the rest. This visualization shows the asset breakdown versus the average fund yield. This shows the how much the asset breakdown doesn't actually affect the fund yield, showing by the trend lines being pretty much just flat across them. The next visualization is of the fund net annual expense ratio, broken down by the investment type. And this visual actually shows us that the fund yield actually goes down as the fund net annual expense ratio goes up, which is kind of counter what you'd think, that if you spent more money on the fund, they would perform better. The only exception is this medium fund in the value investment type. One strong, interesting piece of information we found going through the data is that the price book and price cash flow ratios had a strong correlation with returns, especially the 3-year return. This information is important to consider when you're looking at funds to invest in for fund yield, due to their high correlation with each other. One more interesting piece of data in the visual is without the outliers. It ends up showing that the average fund yield doesn't change too much with the inception year, and with the exception of an increase a little bit in the medium funds, but for the most part, it really doesn't have an effect. And it's also interesting to see that some of the older small funds are some of the top performing, with the exception of those two large companies that we took out of a lot of the data. That wraps up what I have to share with the visuals, and I will hand it back to David.
Thank you, Blaine, for those insights. They were valuable. In conclusion, we recommend to Vanguard mutual funds that your analysts prioritize medium-sized funds, value-oriented funds, and older funds, as these have the biggest impact on our model output. That's everything today. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. If you have any questions on the analysis, the tableau, the presentation, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at Shift4Finance at shift4finance.com. Cheers. Thank you very much. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.